Well, let's imagine I want to ask another type of question. So the question I want to ask is, give me all the players who play in a team which has a squad market value of greater than 100 million. Okay, so return me all players that play in an expensive team. Now again, there's a couple of ways of solving this one, especially with the way we've set up our data. The way I want to show you right now is using the matches key in query constraint, which is quite a complex one to understand really. But what it boils down to is we use the matches key in query constraint when we need results from one table, from one class, based off of results from another table, another class. We want to try and query across two different classes in Parse. Let me show you with an example, with the actual code I should say. So let me comment that out, scroll further down, and actually let's just clear this as well. So I've got an expensive teams query, which is a new query on a team, and the query is that if the squad market value, now for a team the squad market value is the cost of all their players, is greater than 100 million. Again, it's all the numbers seem to be divided by 1,000 right now, but this is 100 million. So if the team is greater, the team's value is greater than 100 million. That's what this query is all about. Now, if you remember from the team has a code called MCFC, WBA, LFC. This is a good way of identifying an individual team. And if we look at a player also has team code. So this player works for the team code WBA. So again, back to team code, that is West Bromwich. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to return all the codes for all the teams whose squad market value, this column here, is greater than 100 million. Okay, so that's going to return for me all of the expensive teams. I then want to go to the player table and say, well, okay, now return me all players whose team code is one of those codes. Okay, so that's the question I want to ask. Now, the hard way of doing this would be something like this. So one way of answering it would be to run this query and get all the team codes. So let's try that. So expensive teams query dot find, then function results, then for var I is equal to 0, I is less than results dot length I plus plus. Oops, shit. So sorry, should not have sworn. Team codes push results I get code. Okay. So what this is doing is it's going to run that team query, get all the teams with a value of greater than 100 million, and then loop through them all and get all their team codes and put them in the team codes array. So now, if I then here log team codes, I should see those team codes printed on the right hand side. So let's run this. There we go. So here are all the team codes. These are all the teams that have market values greater than 100 million. Now let's use those team codes in a second query to get the players. So let's create a query for Parse, and then we can do, well, which one can we use? Which one do you think we might use? We can use the contained in constraint, and we can say team code is in one of the team codes that we've collected from the teams query. And again, q.find. In fact, let's not find, let's just count it. Let's console.log found count players in expensive teams. Okay, so there we go. So we run one query to get the expensive teams. we then get the team codes from the results of that query, and we then run another query to get the number of players who are in those expensive teams. Oh, we should run that here because the expensive teams query hasn't returned above there yet. Okay, so now if I clear this, hit run, and there you go. So now it's found 394 players who play for one of these teams. Okay, so to solve this problem, we had to run quite a lot of code really. We had to run two queries, one to get the expensive teams, and then we had to write some code to actually get those codes from those teams, and then we ran another query to get the players with those team codes. That's a lot of requests and responses going back and forth between your client code and the Parse server. But in fact, there's a much better way to solve this problem with Parse. So let's just comment that out, copy it here, and then let's copy that out, and let's delete those. Okay. So what we can say is we can use something called the matches key in query constraint. So let me type it in here. So matches key in query, and we can say that takes the column that you want to compare against in the player class, the column you want to compare against in the team class, so the team class is code, and the query on the team class, the expensive teams query. Okay, so let's run this so you can be certain that it's working. So again, it's those 394 players, but it only made one request to the server. Okay, what it did is it sent to the server, hey look, why don't you run this expensive teams query on your side, take the code from all of the results in there, and essentially run a contained in query on the team code and just return me the count. Really just we're only really sending one request to the server, which is a much faster mechanism of running queries. So that's how we can run queries across different tables, or one way we can run queries across different tables.